Okay, hello everyone. This is I believe the fourth video. I'm starting to lose count already. All right. In this video, I'm going to cover two questions at once because I think these two questions are there are a bit of similarity between them, and we are going to look at usefulness as well as reliability. All right. So, if you stay with me on SPQ set 5, okay, you'll see the usefulness question here, but I also added one reliability question just to show you what are some of the difference later. Okay, but I'm going to just do it in this order. How useful is source D as evidence that immigration benefit countries? Okay, so again, I'm going to show you how I will unpack the question. I will show you how I will approach the sources and my initial how I plan out the answer. And then I will show you the sample template that your revision booklet has. And last but not least, I will show you the suggested answer in the answer scheme. So you can see how the template is being applied and you can see whether my thought process was similar or is it correct lah, basically the answer. All right, so let's get started. Then at the end, I'll repeat the process and show you how the answer is slightly different if it's a reliability question. Okay, so how useful is source D as evidence that immigration benefits country? So this question is asking me, when I look at this question, first of all, I know it's a usefulness question. So usefulness question, usually we need to focus on two things. There are two parts. First thing is, does it tell me what I want to know? Okay, does it tell me whether immigration benefit countries or not? Okay, maybe the source will say, oh yes, it's beneficial, so it's evidence. Okay, or maybe the source will tell you immigration is terrible, it doesn't benefit the country. Then it would not be a useful evidence. But so does it tell me what I want to know, whether immigration benefit countries? So that's one. Number two, in usefulness, we also want to know, besides telling us something, can I believe what it tells me? Okay, i.e., is it reliable or not? Okay, so usually useless question, there's these two parts to it. So later you will see I will try to write like two short paragraphs addressing these two parts. Okay, and when I want to do the last part, the reliability one, your teacher as well will have taught you there are a few ways to do this one. You can either do cross-referencing or you analyze the provenance. Okay, the provenance, the background, the author of the source. Okay, I'm going to show you how I can do both later. So the first step is quite common. Does it tell me what I want to know? Basically, this is like a normal inference style question, and then after you analyze whether it's reliable or not using either cross-reference or analyzing the provenance. Okay, so let's see, does it tell me what I want to know? So before I go into source D, remind yourself, I'm going to check, does it will source D tell me whether immigration benefit the countries or not? Okay, and why? Okay, so let's look at source D. Does it benefit countries or not? Immigration. Let's read together. Okay, adapted from, you notice I've been doing you must read the provenance because it gives you a bit of background. Okay, an analysis of Singapore's immigration policy by Economies published in the Straits Times. Okay, it's published in 2018. Okay, so we're gonna see whether this Economies, which is basically a person who analyzes the economy, we're gonna see whether he or she tells us that immigration, is it beneficial to Singapore, the country? Okay, if we don't want immigration, we can mitigate. Mitigate means reduce. Okay, if we don't want immigration, we can reduce or mitigate our economic problems by raising the total fertility rate. So they are telling people, okay, immigration is quite important because our fertility rate is very low currently. Okay, so at this point, I'm starting to guess maybe this guy thinks immigration is beneficial because it helps us with replaces our short fertility rate. But let's read on. But even if we succeed in raising the fertility rate from the current level of 1.2 children per woman to the replacement ratio of 2.1 over the next 15 years, it won't have much of an impact on the economy until 2040 because it will take time for the extra babies to born to grow before they can enter the workforce. So they are saying even if people have children, it's not going to help the country now. So what does this mean about the importance of immigration? Okay, from here I can start to guess, okay lah, I cannot count on raising birth rate, right? So I will need to have immigration. Immigration is very important because maybe immigration, unlike birth rate, has a more immediate impact. I don't need to wait so long. Okay, but let's read on. Given these constraints to expand our workforce, Singapore must, okay, so highlight important point. Singapore must allow a certain rate of birth rate. Okay, and why? Because waiting for babies will take time. Okay, and if we wait too long and we don't solve it, it will affect our economy. So these three things I'll tell you. Immigration is beneficial for the country. Remember, the question is asking evidence for whether it's beneficial to a country. So this is evidence that it's beneficial to a country. How is it beneficial? Because it helps us with our economic problems, because the alternative, having babies, is not good enough. It will take too time. A 2016 International Monetary Fund study found that the aging, so it is an international organization, found that the aging of the workforce is likely to be a significant drag on productivity growth. For developed countries with aging populations, productivity growth, economic growth 20 years from now will likely be close to zero if nothing is to be done to the situation. So basically here they are saying, okay, we need immigration because our country is aging, okay, and it will hurt our economy. We'll have a lot of economic problems. So the economic problems, they mention it all here, okay. Our productivity will slow down, our economic will no longer grow. Okay, so at first glance, what can I see from the source? Remember, the source, I need to explain everything. Does it tell me what I want to know? Okay, so so the answer to this is so the answer to this, yes, it tells me what I want to know. What does it tell you? What does it tell you about immigration benefit? It tells me immigration benefit countries. Okay, so let's put a short note here before we write it out in full later. Okay, so how do I write out the answer for this first paragraph? Okay, I'll show you the first paragraph first. Okay, but as usual, I'm going to show you a quick template. Okay, before I show you the suggested answer. So usefulness, source A is useful in telling me about what? Okay, so later I will say source D is useful in telling me, is useful as evidence that immigration benefit countries. I know this because source B tells me, there was economic problems. There was this line that tells us that it will benefit the country, and there was this line that tells us waiting for TFR, fertility rate, to increase is not helpful. So all this could be the evidence, and this means what? So this first paragraph basically is like an inference. It's used, what can you infer, what evidence, and explain. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the suggested answer. Okay, so this is the first part that every one of you should at least do, because it's not difficult, honestly. Source D is useful as evidence. So the inference here, that immigration benefit, it tells me immigration benefit countries economically. Okay, so this part, first line, is the inference. Okay, so it tells me something about what I'm asking, what I want to know, which is whether it will benefit country. So I learned that yes, it benefits the country. Evidence, okay, the aging of the workforce likely to be significant, blah, 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 if it is to be done, immigration. Okay, so this whole chunk here is the evidence. Okay, again, I'm not going to spend my time reading everything. If you need to read, feel free to pause the video anytime. Okay, so after the evidence, you must explain what does this line mean. What does aging population affecting productive growth? What does this constitute immigration? This suggests that immigration will benefit countries, as aging population will require the influx of working age adults through immigration. It maintains the workforce in order to ensure that the workforce continue to contribute to the economy and it benefits. So basically, in a nutshell, I'm explaining my own words why it is beneficial to the economy. So I explain my evidence here. All right. All right. So this is the first paragraph. Okay, whether it tells me what I want to know. Yes, we have explored this already. So let's go back to the question. Okay. So the next part we want to solve is, can I believe what it tells me? Is it a reliable source? So the assumption here is a reliable source is a useful source, and vice versa. If a source is not reliable, it's not a useful source. So we need to figure out whether the source is reliable. So let's do cross-reference. Cross-reference is quite straightforward. So cross-reference basically means I'm going to check if another source also tells me immigration benefits the countries. Okay, we already found that source D tells me yes, it benefits countries. So we're going to see whether another source tells me it's beneficial or not. Okay, so maybe if you're a bit lazy, feeling a bit lazy like me, I can use some of the previous sources and tell me whether it benefit the country. Okay, so let's say, okay, since this source is about Singapore, right? Just now we saw source C was about Singapore. Does source C tells me anything about immigration being a problem or immigration being beneficial to the country? Okay, so here we just now we explored, right? We remember we had notes. We mentioned that immigration has some negative problems because some people, they may affect our impact our cuisine, our manners, our lingua franca. Okay, but this source, I wouldn't use this source maybe because this source seems to suggest to me that immigration may have some problems, but maybe it's not as bad as it seems. So maybe I can find another source that support or contradicts more clearly. So maybe I have to find a Singapore source. Let's see if there's any other source on Singapore. Okay, so there are no other sources on Singapore. So I guess we can use any other country and it works also lah. Okay, let's say we want to go with source C since it's Singapore, right? So source D mentions that immigration is beneficial to countries. So this one seems to suggest that immigration may not benefit countries because there are integration problems. Okay, so let's go with this source C. So if we look at source, if we cross-refer to source C, source C seems to tell me that immigration may not benefit. It may be a problem to the countries. So what does this tells me? This tells me that source D is unreliable. Source D may not be useful. Okay. Best to stick with Singapore because I think Singapore usually will be a better comparison. But I think if you want to use other countries to compare, please feel free to go ahead. If your country, if your source supports source D and also say that immigration is beneficial, then obviously it will be different. It will mean source D is reliable and source D is useful. Okay, so how does a cross-reference paragraph look like? Let me show you very quickly now. Okay, wrong slide. Okay, so when I cross-refer to source, another source, source B, source C, whatever, source B supports or does not support source A. Okay, so I'm going to clearly say whether it supports. Okay, I can infer. What can you infer from the previous source? Okay, and give evidence, explanation as usual. And then the last part is very important. Okay, since the source support or does not support, it tells me the source is reliable or not reliable. Therefore, it tells me whether the source is useful or not. Okay. All right. So this is the rough structure of cross-reference. Now I'm going to show you what the suggested answer looks like, and you can see how the template is being used. Okay, so we covered the first paragraph just now already. So let's find the cross-reference part. Okay, cross-reference. Okay, based on cross-reference. So let's look at this one. Okay, so this person used source E, this person used source C. Okay, let's look at source C since that was the source that I picked just now. Okay, but later I'll just show this also. Okay, Source D is not useful as evidence that immigration benefits countries because it's refuted by source C. That means it's challenged by source C. Source D tells me that immigration benefit the country economically, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this was basically what I said just now about source D. Okay, we covered that just now already. So let's look at the second part. However, cross-referencing to source C tells me that the immigration does not benefit countries economically. Okay, so here I have the inference of my cross-reference source. Okay, so again, after I do one source, I want to repeat the same process for my second source. And I want to give evidence. Evidence from source C, ideally to solve Singapore's population, more Singaporeans were born. Okay, this is the evidence. Now, how does that challenge source D? Let's read on. Okay. I start to see how they challenge already. Okay, this suggests that immigration does not benefit country economically as it's not a sustainable solution to keep importing foreigners to our workforce, as too many foreigners will cause problems in our society. Okay, so here they are basically explaining, according to source C, immigration is not a good solution because they say ideally we want to have babies instead of having immigrants come in. Okay, so source C tells me immigration may not be beneficial to country. That's why they say it's not the ideal solution, so it's not beneficial. Okay, so the last part, very important. Since source C is contradicted or source C is refuted by source D, okay, let's type it down. It's contradicted. Okay, I think refute is a bit of a cheap word. By source D is unreliable and therefore not useful. That okay, so this is what I call the link. Okay, so make sure whether you write this at the start or at the end, you must include this one. All right. So again, let's make it very clearer. First part, tell me what does source D tell you what you need to know, and then after you do your cross-referencing. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to show you how we can do a support one. So source D is useful as is blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this part is same old, but cross-referencing. Similarly, source E tells me immigration will benefit the country. Okay, this is again my inference. Okay, do you need to do two cross-reference? Obviously, no, just need to do one. Okay, is evidence. Okay, I haven't gone through this source with you before, so I shan't talk too much about the source, but basically I want to show you the rough structure. I give the evidence. Every time I give the evidence, I must explain. So in this case, I must explain why it shows immigration will benefit country, because we are looking at a source that supports, right? And last but not least, we want to have the link as well. Since source E supports source D is reliable and therefore useful. My link is very important. Okay, so must put this link somewhere in your answer. Okay, so that's all for cross-reference for usefulness. Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, just now I mentioned, okay, I want to go through reliability as well. So I'm just going to show you all the reliability. If the question is just asking how reliable is source D as evidence that immigration benefit countries, how is this different from a usefulness question? Basically, reliability is almost the same as usefulness. Okay, you will also need two paragraphs because yes, you need to tell me what does source D says first. Okay, and you also need to tell me whether the source is reliable or not. So does it say what does it say and whether it's reliable? Okay, so if I show you the template real quick, okay. If I do a reliability question, okay, you will realize that, okay, instead of saying all these things, I will not need to say this last part. Maybe if it's a reliability question, I won't need to include the useful part, obviously. I'll just need to say cross-reference is support, therefore it's reliable, full stop. If it's a usefulness question, I will need to add one extra link because I'm asking about usefulness, right? And therefore reliability proves the usefulness. So you need an extra argument there. So same thing, if I'm doing a reliability question, I don't need to mention the usefulness, but I just need to stop it. Okay, therefore, since it supports or does not support, therefore it's unreliable or reliable. You don't need to include the last part. Okay. All right. I'm not quite done with reliability and usefulness yet, because I need to show you the last way to test whether a source is reliable or not, and that is to analyze the provenance. Okay. So let's look at the answer straight out. Okay, this is a long video, so I'm gonna go quick. Okay, maybe okay. Let's look at this answer. Okay, so this is analyzing the provenance. Analyzing the provenance means I'm gonna look at source D, right? Source D is the main source, right? I'm gonna look at what this guy is saying. This guy is the economist, and we're gonna look at what this source is saying. Can we believe source D based on what this source is saying and who this person is? So I'm going to show you the answer just to speed things up a bit. Okay. Let's see whether there's a template I can show you first. Also, no, the template doesn't show here because usually for this last part, okay, this is usually the highest level. You'll notice that if I analyze the provenance, it's a higher, worth more marks. It's a higher level, level 5, compared to doing usefulness, which is level 3, a lower level. Okay, so okay, and you see sometimes they want to do both, but frankly speaking, you won't have time to do, so don't bother. Okay, so let's look at what this person said. Source D is not useful as evidence that immigration benefit country as is an analysis done by economists. So why is the economist analysis not useful? Let's read on. As economists, you only come from the economic perspective, which is only one perspective when analyzing immigration benefit country. As such, his opinion would not be useful as it does not take into account other dimensions like the social and political dimensions. Which is what just now we mentioned is Source C, right? Source C mentioned that, you know, they don't integrate well. So the economist doesn't mention this. So this person is saying source D is not saying enough. Okay, so it is not a useful source. It's limited. It's limited, not saying enough. Okay, so the evidence is they only talk about the economic experience. Since the source only mentioned economic impact of immigration, it will not be useful as it does not take into other important. Okay, so this is all I can say is there's no one straight answer to this. Okay, but basically is whether what the source say, is it enough and can we believe it or not? Okay, let's look at the other way. Source D is useful as evidence that immigration benefits countries as made by economists. As an economist, he's supposed to analyze immigration policies and provide his expert opinion. So I'm analyzing his background. Since this analysis was not made with a hidden agenda, so he has no purpose, no hidden agenda. He doesn't want to sway any opinion. He presents a very reality, okay? And he tells us that birth rate also cannot solve the problem, okay? So it's more useful as evidence that immigration. So the key thing, what is this second part talking about? This second part basically is say we can believe the author, the source, because the author is believable based on his status. So he's an economist, he's a status. He has no hidden purpose. He is very objective. Or in other words, he is not biased. Okay. If I change the source is by a prime minister, that immediately is very suspicious because politicians, prime ministers, they might want to convince people a certain thing. So they maybe might tweak the facts, hide certain facts. But economists, professors, these sort of people, I'll say they're usually more fair, especially if you read the source, they seem to give a very fair opinion. Okay, then yeah, therefore we can believe the source. Okay, so the last part really, if you're not too confident doing never mind. Aim for the cross-reference, because honestly, if you do the cross-reference properly, like 5 marks. This question is 5 out of 7 is, if I calculate correctly, is a distinction. Okay, so don't worry too much if you're not comfortable analyzing the provenance, the background. Okay, stick with cross-reference, try and test it. Very simple, very straightforward. All right, so same thing for a reliability question, whether it's reliable or not. you can also analyze the provenance. Okay, in this case, maybe you wouldn't use this one, but maybe you'll more say this one. Okay, it's reliable because he has no hidden agenda, so therefore he's a reliable source. So you can maybe stick with this one if you are doing reliability. All right, so that's it for question 4 and 5, our usefulness as well as a reliability question. This has been a long video as usual. Thank you for staying till the end with me. We have 2 more videos to go, one for surprise, one for study all sources. All right, take a break. I'll see you in the next ones. Bye bye.